Sox! White Sox! Go, go, White Sox! Let's go, 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 White Sox! We're with you all.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. Hey, it's episode 273. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. We do this every Sunday night live, 9:15 on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. Subscribe, set the notifications, pass it along, all that good stuff. You can find the audio absolutely everywhere. Jump in the comments if you have a chance and you're able to join us live. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what the weekend gave us, and even before that Nat series and some of the different developments, some player movement, a big DFA, which is great. Joining me, as always, my best friend, lifelong Sox fan, folks, Pat Hester. How are you, sir?
Hey, buddy, do you think it was a difference between polyester uniforms and cotton uniforms this weekend? Hey, listen, when you face a team that's got, a lot of hitters that can hit the ball out of the ballpark at any moment, and you have a team full of guys that probably don't have that ability, you're going to lose, right? And you're going to lose 3 games in a row to the Yankees on the road when they have guys like Aaron Judge, Soto, and Giancarlo Stanton, which I feel like Giancarlo Stanton hits a home run every game that we face the Yankees. Maybe we should stop pitching to him. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's a lost weekend. The weekend of winning has come to an end after a couple weekends in a row of celebration. We have to come back down to earth. We're humbled a little bit. So it's a humbling Good Guys Talk Back tonight.
Yeah, we were on a streak for several weeks talking about winning weekend baseball for our Southsiders. That was not happening at all Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Welcome, Peyton, Drew, and Sydney. Appreciate you joining us here on Sunday night as our Chicago White Sox 14-33. Sox are 5-5 in their last 10 games, 16 games back in the ever forgiving AL Central with a run diff of minus 99. Sox are once again the worst team in all of baseball. There's a bit of a shuffle with Miami and Colorado and the White Sox, but that rough weekend has put us back in the cellar. Have you ever been to New York to see baseball, whether Mets or Yankees? You ever go to old Yankee Stadium, Pat?
I never have. I've never been to New York City in my life, to be honest with you. I know you have.
Yeah.
I know others have taken that trek out, especially the old ballpark, the historic old Yankee Stadium. The new one, right? They built right across the street. It's not far from the old place, so I don't have any impression of it. The charm and allure, obviously, of playing in New York is always there, and it'd be a cool thing to take in and see. But I really have zero desire to go to New York. That's just me. Other people find it attractive, not me.
Yeah, I think when I was living in Washington, D.C. for a couple of years way back when, that was it was easily accessible. You take a train, you're there in a few hours. During the holidays, it's really nice, Pat, to be in New York for like the weekend during Christmas time. I did go out 2006, was it? 2006 or 2007 to see the White Sox play the Yankees in old Yankee Stadium. And I wasn't terribly impressed at all where the stadium was, the neighborhood, anything like that. It was a big museum, it was a big monument. I wasn't terribly blown away by the stadium either. Sox got absolutely manhandled by the Yankees, we got it as fans. That was one of the few stadiums I've been to, and I've seen the Sox in a lot of different stadiums all across this great country, and that was one of the cities where I was just like, I got to get the hell out of here.
You feared for your life.
And we sat. We didn't know any better, but we sat in right field one of the games, and that was the wrong place to sit as an opposing fan, because that was the area where the fans are chanting the players' names in the first inning, looking for kind of a tip of the cap by the player. I don't know if you've ever heard of that little tradition or whatever they did, and we were just completely outnumbered. They were giving it to us the entire time. Even when we got into the cab, I had people coming up just banging on the window.
Interesting.
Just get out of here. You don't belong here, kind of thing. So I've had pleasant experiences, when traveling. I had a great time in Toronto, which is where the Sox will be next. And so anyway, but I don't have very good memories about seeing baseball in New York. The city, I've enjoyed my short time in the city while visiting, but I haven't been to the new stadium anyway. It was all kinds of bad for the Sox. You had no Crochet, no Fetty in this series, and they've been the hot hands.
Yeah,
I got to see Fetty when I went to go see the Sox play Game 2 of that doubleheader against the Nats, which I can get to in a little bit. And he looks good. Crochet looks good. Their outings this past week. But Sox swept by the Yankees in the Bronx. The 7th time the Sox have been swept this year.
That's almost unbelievable.
Doesn't that feel like when you really think about it? I guess you could go a couple ways. You can say, really, it's only been. But when you think about a series being swept 7 times already.
Is it more unbelievable? I don't know if the word is unbelievable, but are you surprised or shocked more by the number of times they've been swept this year or the number of times they've been shut out this year?
Swept, I think. Swept. Yeah. I knew runs were going to be, really tough to come by, but just to be swept away, that 7 times, that's insane.
And pretty haplessly. I mean, you talk about the offense. I mean, I'm not going to go into a deep dive on data here and stats, but 2, 1, and 2. That's not going to get it done in terms of runs per game over this series. So, yeah, I'm not a math wizard, but I would think that's about a 1.5 runs game average. Is that accurate?
Yeah. No,
I'm not very good at math. It's been an extremely long day. I feel like
don't try to hurt yourself here. Don't hurt yourself in the Sox account right now.
I won't.
That's not.
I won't.
The Sox are last in the majors with 34 home runs, and they were out homered in the series 8-1 by the Yankees. And the Yankees are fairly healthy. They got their big boppers, and their big boppers did damage. You talked about it. We had a guy kind of just throwing batting practice on Saturday. Keller, he's been DFA, thankfully. I guess we can talk a little bit more as we break down this series, but good to see him gone. I didn't think he did any favors for the White Sox. He was essentially brought in to be a warm body, to eat innings, and that's what he was doing. He was just eating innings. He was a human batting practice machine, and that's what happened, and so thankfully they came to their senses, and maybe we'll see Nastrini, hopefully we see somebody that is going to mix into the future of this White Sox team, beyond this year. Carlos Rodon, of course, on the hill on Sunday in the series finale. He gave up 2 runs over 6 innings, striking out 6. Is Rodon a guy, or let me ask you this. I think we've kind of messed with this topic a few times through the life of this podcast when, former White Sox players come back and they play against the Southsiders, in their new uniforms at whatever point in their journey, past or post White Sox. Have you been following Rodon? Have there been any guys that left the White Sox and you've kind of watched more than you thought you would?
Not really. I mean, Carlos Rodon is kind of an afterthought. I mean, he went to the Yankees. He's been hurt for a while, if memory serves, right? So he's not been, I don't think, what they had hoped in terms of availability and in terms of a guy that they thought they were getting when they picked him up. So, I'm not rooting against him. I don't root against anybody that is, unless they were just a bad guy, bad teammate, bad dude. I'm not going to outwardly root hard against that any harder than I would if he was, anybody else that didn't play for the Sox. But yeah, I'm not following guys. I mean, there was a lot of wringing hands of gnashing of teeth when Berger was traded, which that should have never happened. We've gone through the story of, GM and president don't see eye to eye. One guy makes a trade without another person knowing. It's a little bit ridiculous when he was about the only feel good piece on our team. But I digress. People were all about Jake Berger when he left. And, it's like, okay, well, he's doing his thing down in Miami. I'm not really going to pay too much attention to a Jake Berger. I see correctly that Tim Anderson is now down in the minor leagues. He's already been sent down.
That's very possible.
So it's like, listen, I'm not going to keep tabs on guys that aren't here. I'm more interested to see what's going to happen on this team and what they're going to do in the future. And then just hope and pray that some of these moves that they've been able to make, the young guys that you had mentioned that can come up, the Cannon and the Nastrini of the world can come up and produce and show us something. And then you're watching with a very close eye on what a Garrett Crochet is going to be doing and how's he going to continue to manage after some really solid starts as of late. Can that continue? Will it be able to continue? Will he be stopped from continuing it? And will he be on the trading block while his stock is high? So those are the things that interest me, Nick. I'm not going out of my way to watch, guys that are former players unless they're, Hall of Fame type guys that are ending their career and maybe they're going after some type of milestone or something in another uniform.
Noah Schultz as well. Speaking of young arms, jumping up to Double-A. That's pretty exciting with the roster that they have. I'm sure our good friends at Future Sox are going to be all over that in the next coming days. If you're not following Future Sox, please do that. They do it the right way. They invest some time and energy. James Fox, Ian Eskridge, and the gang, and that's exciting stuff for Noah Schultz. But in terms of Rodon, I was there for his no-hitter. It's the only no-hitter I've seen in person. So I have a kind of a special connection with Carlos Rodon. So I root for the guy, did he really do himself well, kind of betting on himself. And we just know what the White Sox do as an organization. They had some intel on, him, of course, in terms of injuries and health and all that kind of stuff. We all knew they weren't going to spend the money that he was going to get from San Francisco, from New York, but he was on a mission on Sunday. I think he touched 98 miles per hour, looking healthy now. Going back before we talk a little bit more about this game, you mentioned guys with their milestones. I followed Frank Thomas after he left, and Mark Burley. I think I followed Mark Burley very closely because I was so mad that they let Burley go. That was a guy I wanted to see finish his career in a White Sox uniform, and I was rooting for that guy. Miami, Toronto, and he didn't lay up. I think he had a couple Gold Gloves, maybe an All-Star appearance post White Sox. So those were two that come to mind.
Yeah, like I said, those would be the exceptions. Just the guys that are going to be I don't want to say run of the mill, but better than average players that you did root for and very hard for a certain amount of time. But, a lot of guys, especially these days, Nick, it's guys are not on teams for 7, 8, 9 years anymore, double digit years. They're there for their contract. And if they're really good, and they're up for free agency, they're probably moving on if your team is going to not be able to retain them. And we know that this team is not going to be paying a lot of money for free agents. So it's going to be kind of rare as we move forward, especially under this ownership group, that if we get guys that are star level players, there's a good chance that, whatever they had for their contract is going to be it.
Yeah. Sunday with Rodon on the hill. This was the lineup that he had. You had Tommy Pham, who, the way he's playing baseball, he obviously is trying to seal his fate and get the heck out of Chicago, get onto a winning ball club. He has been a pretty white hot for White Sox standards. Vaughn, Eloy Jimenez in the lineup playing right field. It was his first time this year out there with the glove. I love that he is still doubling down on his distaste for the designated hitter spot. I want to play right field. And I wonder, am I making too much out of this if I were to say, and I probably am, that the White Sox might be trying to just showcase him a little bit out there in right field to maybe up his value, if there's any value whatsoever at the deadline of, this guy can he can play right field.
I think, Nick, you are looking a little bit too much into that. I mean, isn't the book out on what he is as a fielder?
Should be
a game here or there, a start, really going to change people's minds and go, oh, maybe we've overlooked his ability to track balls and field position. And look at this. This is something we've never seen before. He's just not going to have enough opportunities. I mean, if that was the case, Nick, he would be out there, 3 days a week, right? And that's just not going to be the case.
Hello to Sean and Pete and Howard. Howard actually with a comment here, Pat, that Anderson was sent by Miami to Jacksonville on a rehab assignment. So that's
I didn't realize that. I mean, I just saw that he was down in the minors, and again, not rooting for that, but again, either regardless of the fact if he was sent down or if he's down on a rehab assignment, we saw the years riddled with injury with TA. We talk about the other guys that were down and on the IL a lot. And Tim Anderson was one of those guys too, that was just found himself on the IL a lot of times over the past couple of years. So it's unfortunate that, again, he finds himself down there in a rehab assignment. Hopefully it's nothing too serious for him.
Paul DeYoung was in there. Corey Jolks, he brought up just a few games ago, getting some action. He was one of the only White Sox players to really provide some power on Sunday out in left field. Corey Lee took your DH, Remillard, Mendick. So, how about that lineup right there?
Oh, boy.
Against Rodon, against some of those boppers that you had brought up at the beginning of the show. It's not always, the flashy names and the all-stars. Sometimes it's the gamers. Sometimes it's the guys that just want it. The TWTW guys, the Remillards, the Mendicks. This time it was not. It's just absolute talent. It's just it's pure talent. Sorry, not today, folks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, imagine the payroll comparison right now between the White Sox and the Yankees. I mean, it's just insane when you look at that. And when you have talent, you've got a chance, right? Every year you're going to have a chance when you've got when you can look on paper and go, we can roll our guys out against just about anybody. And I'm not saying the Yankees are one of the best teams in all of baseball by any means, but listen, you got a chance when you got those guys in the lineup. And when you've got guys like that we're rolling out there, it's kind of a joke when you think about it, but that's what this season has provided us.
Sox were losers, and I do want to touch a little bit on later in this podcast this whole John Schriffen stuff and 670 score. Oh my God, it is so funny to me what is going on here, and I've got some theories. I don't even know how much time I want to give it because it's absolutely insane, but. There was some more dust ups. If you've been following anything on social media or listening to Schriffen and Beckham, that combo this past weekend and some of the things that came out of that. But Sox lost 7-2, 6 hits. Sox were 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Newcomer Corey Julks had 2 hits, including that home run that I spoke of. Flexen. Very rough for the Sox. 4 innings, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, gave up a couple of home runs, and he was not happy post-game. A lot of expletives, a lot of anger. Angry is what you would say he was, and rightfully so. It was a rough game for him. Tommy Pham hitless on Sunday, but last 7 games, 10 for 26, slashing 385, 448, 500. Those are get me out of here numbers. If you were wondering.
Help me, please. Somebody get me out of this place.
Somebody get me out of here. Hey, I mean, you just wonder sometimes, like, what we could have done with Tommy Pham a while ago. I mean,
Well, it would have been nice to have addressed the position a while back and been able to have somebody that could produce like that and be a professional. We've just, I mean, the thing I think we've lacked over the years, Nick, aside from going from a team that hit the ball out of the ballpark to not hitting the ball out of the ballpark all of a sudden, was guys that just could be professional hitters and just be okay. I have you. This is what the back of your baseball says you are. Can you show up and be that guy in a night in and night out basis? And it just seemed like guys, just reverted to some form of themselves that is well below what their season averages normally are. So, yeah, a guy that actually will go out and do what you expect him to do, that's fantastic. Now he's playing a little bit above his head probably right now, but listen, he's a professional baseball player, and that's what we've lacked is professionalism.
yeah, that is things definitely seemed to change a little bit when he came around, and he probably took a look around the situation, was like, what is going on here? But I am going to use this as an opportunity to catapult myself, put myself on display, and latch on with a winner and be able to help out a team, down the stretch. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Prior to Saturday's game, Pedro Grifol was speaking about how the team was sitting at 14-32. This was coming from a Scott Merkin article, which we love Scott Merkin. He's been on the podcast a few times over the years. And but I often see his articles as kind of like People Magazine, kind of like puff pieces sometimes, where he's just doing a profile or just kind of a get to know you, or allowing maybe a manager or a player just to kind of extrapolate on other things happening around the game. And I felt this was kind of like one of those pieces here, as Grifol got some time to wax about relationship with fans and how to kind of keep your chin up in all of this craziness that's happening with the White Sox. So Grifol understands the fans' pain, even if it's often redirected towards him in a less than positive manner, Merkin wrote. He also appreciates their spirit. I actually love them. And the reason I do is because they are passionate. They are smart, Grifol said. What you hear out there is good baseball stuff. They know the game. I try to put myself in their shoes. Like if I'm going to spend my hard-earned dollars on a baseball game and I'm expecting to watch good baseball, if I don't see it, I'm pissed. That is from Pedro Grifol.
And that's not the Pedro Grifol quote of the week.
No, that's just I kind of peppered something in the middle of the show. There's other good stuff
There's a
towards the end as usual.
Yeah. Quote. I love it. Hey, you know what? When will Pedro be just a fan at some point? Will he still show up? Will he pay his hard-earned money to come show up to a game when he's at some point dismissed? And will it be, at the end of the season or not? We'll see. But, again, what else can the guy say? I know we kind of, dissect everything the guy says, and we want to. There's memes out there about the flush it, but boy, oh boy, I just feel like he's got to go up there and answer questions and say things in interviews and all that stuff. He's got no answers. He's got no answers.
Well, I think right now,
the lineup he's got, right?
Yeah.
What did Ozzy used to say? You can't win the Kentucky Derby with a donkey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of me wants, and Pedro gets a lot of the blame for a lot of things. And he's not nearly qualified to do the job he is, or the job he has. But, listen, when that's the lineup that you're rolling out and you're rolling out a guy that's going to give up 8 runs or 7 runs in a game and you can't really depend on too much out of that. Listen, that's the result you're going to get.
I think he's going, recently he's now going the approach of trying to connect with fans, trying to pull on the heartstrings, empathize. Maybe that's a message from the top of, almost try to apologize without apologizing, get on their good side.
Is he worried about getting into a taxi cab and a Sox fan was smacking on his window like the Yankees fan did to you?
Well, there was another part of that article that I gave. I think I gave it the Pedro Grifol quote of the week, a distinction later on in the show, that talks more about, numbers, the amount of fans that are coming out for Yankees games compared to what has been happening on the South Side and what he's seen and wants to see. And that feels like that's a message through Jerry. Like he's kind of speaking the way Jerry would want us to hear, or they seem so connected, and it's also that like sucking up kind of thing that I think Pedro does quite often, knows what Jerry might want to hear, knows that he's just got to survive here because of what his record is and what he has not been able to do despite everything that he's tried to do. So he's got to say something. And I think he's now leaning towards like, what would Jerry want me to say? And that's what we're getting.
Well, I guess it's a good way to keep your job is to keep your boss happy, at least, as long as you're not being measured by wins and losses.
Why would you want to be measured that way in baseball?
So, sir, how will I be measured on my performance? Oh, as long as you say these couple things, wins and losses don't matter. No, never. Don't worry about that. Just go out and
just keep begging those fans to care and pay attention.
Yep.
They'll stick around. So last time we talked Schriffen and the score, was it last week or was it 2 weeks ago with the whole Bill Veeck thing and the whole Matt Spiegel situation where they just were hammering away at Schriffen, which was, I thought, completely ridiculous within the context of what was like this guy and what he's doing. And he's not a lifelong Sox fan. He's not a lifelong Chicago fan. It's his first year in broadcasting in terms of like play-by-play with a team. Okay. He's done play-by-play stuff, but like I'm with a team. I'm their play-by-play guy. This is my first year doing it. Horrible fuel. Okay. Like we talk about like what can fuel a show. And we've been fortunate enough to have great fan input. You and I, have a life together really with the White Sox and beyond. So that fuels us, just our passion, our desire. We're not making any money on this. Like you don't have to pay you don't have to pay to get our content. Okay. I'm not putting myself up on a pedestal and saying that, I'm some sort of elitist, some sort of expert where you've got to, whatever, like this is how you and I think in terms of the White Sox, and hopefully others, there's others like-minded, and these can fuel other conversations moving beyond. So look, Schriffen, I like the guy. Is he still need to, smooth some things out in my mind? Sure. But you have to look at who he's trying to follow, and that's going to come within time. He's just trying to drum up some sort of excitement in my mind about a god-awful team and a kind of directionless organization. And there's we're all fed up. We're angry, and I don't know where sometimes to put my anger. And that's where I think we're all Sox fans. Like anger is being put on somebody at some point. And I feel like Schriffen has taken a lot of it, and it's been coming from the score, and there's a lot of back and forth, and he's denying interviews, and I don't know their whole relationship. And I obviously know that they carry the Cubs, and guys like Ozzie Guillen and Stoney, they come on and they do interviews. And I think there is some sort of relationship that they try. But lately, this past weekend, I think Gordon Beckham flubbed some sort of promo read. And I don't know if you caught any of this or saw any of the transcript. And I think, Beckham maybe was not as pleased by that. And Schriffen defended Beckham and kind of snapped back at the score, calling them almost radio losers. Like if they clip that flub of yours and they use it on air, it's pathetic, and, don't give them any time of day. Called them radio losers. And boy, that did not sit well with those 670 guys. They were not happy, and there was a lot of biting back after that. And I think it's just, oh my goodness, is this so trivial? If this team was 500 better, if this was maybe 20, if this was 2021, if this was 2022, I don't think we'd be at all worrying about this. You know, it's so thin-skinned, it's so ridiculous. And the fact that this team is so bad, then you put this little bickering thing going on. It's really insane.
Yeah, it's quite comical. The thing I would say to Schriffen is, listen, listen, you're not going to win against radio losers, because unfortunately for Schriffen, radio losers are looking for content and things to talk about.
Absolutely.
And they've got shows that start at 5 in the morning and go until 8 at night, live and local. This is going to fuel them for a couple of days, and they're going to take calls on it, and it's going to be a whole thing. So I would say for Schriffen, though you may be right, however you feel, I don't really know, but there's nothing good that can come from picking a fight with any media outlet in this town, because you just don't have enough airtime to do or say what you want to do and say, because you're going to call a game, and you might have an opportunity like you did to slide something in there. But they've got,
you can't get sidetracked.
Yeah.
Like, that's not your job. You can't all of a sudden start finding opportunities to jab back. I agree with you, Pat. That's well said. I think Schriffen, I think he's on the right side, in my opinion. You know, I'm with him on this. I'm Team Schriffen if there is a team, or we have to decide on teams, or however that's going to go. But you're right. It's clicks. This is great for the score. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to tune in, and they want to hear what the personalities are going to say and how they're going to respond. And they're going to drum up all this content on every single platform they have, and the impressions and the clicks. This is great. This is wonderful, especially when there's nothing else to talk about with the White Sox. This fills your White Sox void right there in your calendar for the day.
Yeah, and it seems to be like the only thing that's talked about on both stations is, you know, the negativity around the Sox. And it's not that there's many positives to talk about, but it's, you know, when they're having losing streaks, or when they're having this kind of infighting, or when there's talks of stadium deals and how ridiculous $1 billion to ask for from this, you know, from the state is, or the city, or however, all the negative stuff is what gets to play. They play some pretty good baseball, and it's not as interesting. So I would say for Schriffen, it might behoove him to maybe get a little thicker skin. I get it. I wouldn't want to be, you know, everything I say. Listen, you can make a whole show about the moronic things that I say on a day in and day out basis on this show. So it's hard. You know, it's hard to be out in the limelight in front of people and on camera and I'm behind a microphone and be smooth all the time and try and have it go the right way all the time. But if you're not, people are going to be critical, and you have to be able to, you know, overcome that a little bit. And just, you kind of got to wear it, unfortunately, and it'll make you a better broadcaster in the future, you know. But I can't say that, you know, there were our favorite play-by-play man, Ken the Hawk Harrelson. He definitely didn't let things go. He went after Jay Mariotti on every single.
Jay Mariotti. Yeah. Oh my goodness, exactly.
So the battles that he had, but I mean, Hawk had some skins on the wall, right? He'd been doing it a long time. And he had called at least some interesting and pretty decent White Sox teams over the years. So, you know, it was expected. That was his personality, and he wasn't going to stop, and he didn't really care. But, you know, for Schriffen, this is his first time, especially doing this in this town. I would say, man, just got to wear it, be humble a little bit, and people are going to come after you and be critical, and that's just part of the gig.
I think you're right, and I think he'll learn. I do like that. You know, in the comments, people have said, you know, I like that chirping back. You know, I like that he gives a little jabs here and there, but he has to be comfortable with just little jabs like that. He's got to be comfortable being like, I'm going to slip in a few things, and he's got to be very careful, because the temptation to want to go full on bull rush, you don't have time. You can't get sidetracked. You got a job to do. And I really like what he's been doing in terms of just interacting with fans. You know, we've talked about the Chicago sports bums. Their tailgates are outstanding. There's one coming up June 29th, Pat.
Oh, a day before my birthday.
I know. And we seriously need to consider you and I getting to that.
I'm looking at my calendar right as you speak.
Don't you get sidetracked now. No, go ahead. Look at your calendar.
Can you believe it? As of now, and this is being recorded May 19th at 9:49 p.m., I currently have 0 on the calendar.
You might have to type in Sports Bums Tailgate, June 29th. You are going to eat well. You're going to drink well. You're going to meet some wonderful people that, bleed for this White Sox team, whether they create content or not. They are just huge fans. And Triffin's making his way out to these. And he's hobnobbing and he's rubbing shoulders with like-minded people that, whatever you feel on how he's calling a game right now, he's going to get better. But that thing right there of just interacting with fans and trying to get himself into that culture, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, you got to appreciate that. Not many play-by-play or color, hosts have gone and done that. He's doing things that people don't really do. It's taking the time for the people, and that's fantastic. Good for him.
So let's get back to this ugly series here in New York. I said that to myself multiple times over this year's been rough, Pat. I think back to and when we started this, and by the way, this podcast started because I didn't hear anything that I wanted to in terms of Sox content on the Big Two, on the Score or ESPN 1000. I didn't feel like my needs were met on any Sox coverage. And granted, I'm probably an outlier. I wanted a lot of White Sox coverage. Okay. I wanted what the Bears kind of get. I wanted to flip it, and I wanted it to be White Sox. Well, I know that's not possible. I know the Bears drive the city, the Bears drive radio, the Bears drive content. It's Bears, Bears, Bears. I get that. And I just didn't hear it. And the few podcasts that were available at that time, it just didn't, I don't know. It didn't connect with me. I didn't feel like they were, talking to me or I was their audience at all. So it's like, be the change you want to see, brother. And so this thing got, on its feet in the fall of 2018, just because I didn't feel that there was enough Sox representation in the way you and I are, just a couple of fans that have seen just about everything, over the last 30 plus years, watching this game. So anyway, in terms of, really dissecting this team and watching this team, this weekend was really tough, especially because we had beautiful weather in the city of Chicagoland. It was gorgeous, and you're tempted in a million different directions. You got barbecues going on, graduation parties, you're at Little League games, you want to get out on the golf course, grilling, and it's just, man, I didn't watch a ton of live. I went back and watched games, after they already happened. I caught stuff here and there. It was not I'm an appointment TV. I'm going to sit down and watch these games because this is a tough part of the year where you've got this gorgeous weather. You want to be out doing things, and look at how they're playing.
Yeah, it's definitely not appointment television for me right now. I'm way too busy. I got too many. I was on a baseball field all weekend. So, yeah, and it's kind of sad that's become almost, baseball's always kind of been that background noise of the summer, right? And then spring, and it's going to be there for you, and you're doing things, and it's like, okay, I got the TV on, but I'm going to be outside. I'm going to cut the grass. I'm going to come back in and check, and or you have it on the radio or what have you. Now it's not even that. Now it's like, maybe I'll check on the app and see how they're doing. And no, that doesn't look all that great. Hey, a couple wins against Washington. That's cool. Love to see it. And another series win. But right now, I mean, there's no reason to even go back to watch the highlights, right? It's
low light.
It's like, what are you looking for? I don't want to say it's apathy for me at this point, Nick. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it is. I just, my care level for the team that's on the field is very low. My care level for the organization as a whole is still very high because I still am hopeful for the future of something. And I really am, though I understand why it would be the way it could be, I really don't know if I want to endure another 4 to 5 years of some sort of a rebuild with, quite frankly, a general manager that's never had success at his previous job. Mm-hmm. So listen, I'm hoping that there's some more quick fixes here and there. And I know that's not the right way to do it. It's not the right way to build sustained success. I understand that, but this team hasn't been able to do that ever. So I really am not looking forward to a 4-year rebuild type of thing.
Yeah, it's gut check. It's definitely gut check time. But the way you phrased it, of checking in, checking out, it is always a background thing. It's always on. I mean, especially during the week, every single night, it's on. And I actually had an opportunity to go to the game 2 of the Nats doubleheader, on, I think it was Wednesday, or was it Tuesday? It was Tuesday. And I went with my wife and my son, who's 2 years old. It was his first game of the year. And my parents. Thank you, Dennis Walsh, if you're listening. And, they won that game, and we had an absolute blast. And we were talking, my parents and I, and trying to figure it out. And my son is now 5th generation White Sox fan.
Wow.
5th generation. My parents grew up in South Chicago. Their parents grew up in South Chicago. Their parents worked at the steel mills. My parents eventually moved to the southwest suburbs, and, the rest is kind of history. It's just, I'm pot committed, So when people ask me, it's like, look, this goes back a long ways. It's just, the way of life. And here we are at the game, and, like, my son, who's 2, doesn't understand how bad this team is, where the organization is going. It's really just, we got him a campfire milkshake. Oh yeah, had the campfire milkshake, Pat, and it's kind of like a malt. It's like a chocolate malt, smooth, very smooth.
Okay.
And we shared it, and he absolutely enjoyed just the look on his face. Simple stuff like that. We're sitting in our seats, and Andrew Vaughn, of all people, hits his first home run of the game. He had 2 that game. Hits his first home run of the game. My son is watching it, sees the fireworks going off, and just puts his arms up in the air, just kind of staring and wants more. That's the kind of stuff that, like, okay, this is fun. He's having fun. You're enjoying something that's beyond just the X's and O's of the game, so to speak, the box score. And then we went up, and he met Southpaw and got a picture, and it was like, this was a great night. And of course, they ended up winning. I mean, that kind of stuff is what I have to gravitate towards when they are as bad as they are right now, is that my little guy, and I know there's, you've got, young kids, and there's so many people that are listening that are also kind of in the same boat, is to see baseball kind of in their lens, where it's not necessarily what we get, up in a lather about, but it's just that's fun. That's enjoyable.
Yeah. You have to almost remove yourself from what we talk about here on a weekly basis, and just go, I'm going to zero in on these moments that I have with my family around what I love, and I've loved for a long time, and my parents have loved, and their parents have loved, and just say, right now, like, you kind of put out of your mind all of the things that give you angst, and you say, I'm here on a beautiful night with my family, and we're going to enjoy all the things that I love about baseball. And hopefully, your kids gravitate towards the things that you love, so you can share those moments as you get older. And I totally get what you mean. I still am shocked and surprised that, there'll be days where I'm home and I'm doing things around the house, and I see my 8-year-old just watching the game.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, boy, what the hell is he thinking watching this game? What is he doing? And he's just intently watching, and just because he loves the game, and he loves baseball, and he loves the White Sox. So, those are the things that kind of bring you those little moments of joy, when you can see that, and you can see the happiness in a kid's, eyes. And he doesn't know that the Sox are where they're at, and that they have no shot this year. He's just living in this moment right now, and he sees fireworks going off.
Yeah.
And he's just had a milkshake that his dad probably took more than his fair share of. So those are the moments that again, and I think our buddy, who was it that tweeted out, better at the ballpark? What a great motto for this year, because it is better at the ballpark when you're together with family and friends. So
that's what it has to be. It absolutely has to be. And going back to the Bums tailgate, and so many other people, they gather and they have their rituals, and they have their, there are some good giveaways, and just Friday nights, Saturday nights. That's what you have to just say, is I'm getting together with people that I care about. This is a team that, has played a role in our lives somewhere down the line. And we're going to make some memories, and, we're here now, and, hopefully you see something cool, like my son with the Andrew Vaughn home run and the, and the fireworks. So that was a cool moment this past week. And of course, winning that series, I mean, back-to-back shutouts. They had their first shutout of the year, and then they followed it up with a day game, on Wednesday, and beat the Nats 2-0 to win the series. And Crochet pitched really well. So that was a feel-good time in the middle of the week. Unfortunately, Brian Ramos, he had a hamstring issue, I believe, and he was on the, he was put on the IL, and I think he's rehabbing now in Charlotte. So, we got to get him back. That was the exciting part. It was seeing the youth, younger guys like that are really making the most of their time. That's exciting. This could be our future third baseman. To see him go down. Hopefully it's not an extended issue, but so Friday, Clevenger pitched, and that did not go well. Sox lost 4-2, but Tommy Pham spoke about, before the game, again, that veteran, presence, and how, we've got a tough schedule coming up. So it's going to take a lot of good baseball played to beat some of these teams. And that's, again, we discussed at the beginning of the year, April and May, you got to beat your division. Okay. Which hasn't happened at all. Okay. So if you don't beat your division, watch out, man, because the teams that you're playing, are hungry, are built for October. Now, Yankees, of course, we just got dealt with that. Blue Jays not where they want to be, but they'll be tough in Toronto. And then you've got Orioles, Brewers, Cubs, and Red Sox in the next 3+ weeks.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that. Can somebody just knock me out for the next 3 weeks? Wake me up. Wake me up for the third Sunday from now, and maybe I can do a show with you. I'd probably have watched just as much White Sox baseball as I've had. But listen, there's not going to be a lot of wins in there, man. And I know a lot of people are going to say, like, let's get geared up for that Cubs series. That would be fantastic to win that. But brother, I got no hope. Though they've had a little struggles here and there, and that bullpen isn't fantastic. That's a pretty tough Cubs team managed by a really good manager. So that's not going to be fantastic to watch. And you mentioned the rest. It's like, listen, you needed to, and we talked a lot about it, to start the season. The start of the season in April, what it was bad on just the fact that it was a bad month, right? But it was like compounded by the fact that it was a lot in your division, and you looked as bad as you did after your general manager and your owner continue to say things like, it's a good thing that we're in this division, this forgiving, as you called it, American League Central.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, now you're playing outside the division, and you're going to have some hard times coming up.
This is what Grifol said about, playing, more difficult teams. Honestly, it's the best way to improve. You can't think you're doing everything good when in reality you're not. We have a lot of things to improve on. We have to play better fundamental baseball. We have to improve on that daily. Still working on those fundamentals.
I thought maybe that would be something that was taken care of in spring training 2 years ago. But we're still here talking about the maybe they need to go up to the fundamentals deck, Nick. And maybe they need to go up there. It used to be Scotty Pods and then Tim Anderson you could race against. I don't know who's up there now. I haven't been up there this year.
Luis Robert Jr., I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you go up there and you try and race Lou Bob, and then you go up there and you try and knock down the clown. Little thing on a conveyor belt. I don't know if you've taken Vinny up there yet, but he will.
We went up there. He gets a little, like kids club gift each month. Yeah. And boy, he wanted to get in there and race Luis Robert Jr., but we had to make a decision, get in line for the Southpaw photo or in line for the race. So
decisions were made.
Yeah, I get it. Decisions were made. Yes.
I get it. But anyway, yes, send the team up there to the fundamentals deck. Maybe that's where you take, instead of taking infield, boom, fundamentals deck, boys. Let's go. Let's get in the cages. Let's do some ground balls. That'd be fantastic up there. That'd be fun.
That would be something. They do have a couple nice cardboard cutouts of Frank Thomas and Paul Konerko, kind of just rub shoulders with some legends. Maybe you just something.
Did you say rub shoulders with a cardboard cutout?
Something, I don't
Yeah.
know. Get into the spirit. Saturday, of course, Keller, we talked, he threw some innings and it went poorly. He's been DFA'd. And maybe Nastrini comes up, we'll see a corresponding move to be made. I'm sure in the next few days or so, maybe sooner, we'll get information as there's no rest because the Sox are going to be in Toronto on Monday. And Noah Schultz, heading to Double-A. I mean, there's exciting stuff with the younger guys. There absolutely is. We've been down this road in 2017, 2018, 2019, watching those young guys. Maybe it's going to be different this time around. You got to hope. I'm running out of it at times. I'm fatigued, but seeing what I've seen, the videos that I've seen, the stuff that Future Sox puts out about some of those guys. It does give me some promise. We talked Soroka last episode, Pat, because I think it was on the heels of just a rough start that he had. It's like I just got no time for seeing Soroka now in 2024.
I've got no time for you, son.
I'm sorry, man. I just, and how bad do you have to be DFA'd by the Sox in 2020?
That's like a double DFA.
Yeah, that's a double DFA. That's just and I think people take note around the league. They're like, wow, you couldn't cut it with the White Sox. They just needed somebody to be at least average and not embarrass themselves. And you now have been DFA'd by the White Sox.
Man, there's got to be like a pamphlet out there. So
it's like when George brings the art book in to the bathroom and it gets flagged and he can't return it and he can't give it away and nobody wants it. It's like you've kind of been flagged when you're DFA'd by the White Sox. Like no one's really interested in touching you. But
you've been brought into the bathroom. Sorry.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with him. But Soroka to the bullpen. And this was Soroka on the bullpen move. It's not my job to agree or disagree with any of the decisions made. It's my job to go out there and be an animal. It's what I always prided myself on. And I think I got away from that a little bit. I love that he's always prided himself on being an animal, just an absolute animal. And that's the thing that I bring to the table, folks. I'm an absolute animal, and I was less than. So I'll be getting back at it.
I can't wait to see more of his animalistic stylings as he gets in the bullpen.
Yeah. There was, the doubleheader on Tuesday. So Ramos had the quad issue, not hamstring, but quad issue in game one of the doubleheader. And someone in the comments I think it was John, did say that, Pedro kind of throwing those young guys still under the bus. And he had some words, Pedro did, for Ramos. This was from Vinny Duber, care of CHGO. Pedro Grifol said Brian Ramos, who left with a tight quad, hurt himself on the play where he went first to third. Grifol liked Ramos's aggressiveness, but was unhappy that Ramos missed a hit and run and said that play shouldn't have been as close as it was. In Ramos's day-to-day. Now, I've had Daniel Victor on, I believe, Locked On Sox a year or so ago. And Daniel Victor did a lot of content, and I think still does, for Future Sox. He's a wonderful person to talk to, very kind, very patient, giving of his time, knows so much about the minor leagues, the young guys coming up. I mean, really, really has had relationships with these players, and he's gotten to know them. I respect what Daniel Victor says and puts out there on social media. He's a good follow. And so I flagged something that he had said, and he said, Pedro is cowardly when dealing with veterans and feels like he has carte blanche to say anything he wants to about the rookies, makes him look the opposite of what he's striving for. He just looks weak. And I can't agree with it more. I mean, over the last couple of years, Pedro has not called out veterans and gives them a lot of rope. But as soon as a young guy, we saw it with Colas and with Lee last year, is someone like that, it just screws up a little bit. It's like, I'm not only going to maybe talk to you privately, but it's full blown in public.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because he'll protect veterans and veterans that are batting under 120 for some odd reason, and goes after guys almost like maybe this is a little too strong, almost like a bully would. It's like, listen,
Yeah.
I'm the boss. You screwed up. You have to do it this way, and I don't like even in ways that you are strange, right? The like I can live with guys being a little bit over aggressive. I can live with guys like putting on a lot of effort. Like, what was the thing last year? And he told
Well,
what's his
Loss had
name?
his boombox up too
Yes,
high,
and
the
but he
volume of
told
his
him like
boombox.
he needed to bring it down, not the boombox, but just needed to
Just,
bring
yeah,
it
in a
energy level
reference.
down. Like it
Yeah.
was too high. Like what the hell kind of a what kind of an assessment is that? Don't you want guys to have energy and want to be ready to play the game and excited to be at this level? Maybe they're not going to be fantastic, but geez, that's one thing you can control is your energy level and your how much you're putting into the game. And you're telling him to ramp it down. It's like that seems silly to me. Just because it's almost like he's looking for something to nitpick on guys to make sure they're earning their stripes and paying their dues. It's like, dude, listen, there's a way to manage and communicate to people, and there's a way not to. And one thing that this organization I thought had really big hopes on Pedro was his communication, and I just don't see it. I just don't think he communicates well with his team, and I don't think obviously that he doesn't because they don't respond. They don't respond to the discussions about being more fundamentally sound. They don't respond to much of anything he says. It's not. It's like almost like guys don't really want to play hard for him.
Yeah, you wonder often, you and I have had these conversations, and we talk about what's the value of a manager these days. Like, what is a
Yeah.
manager's worth? What's a managerial war? And it's the management of personalities, and all you have to know, like, when to push, when to lean back, what buttons to hit. And you really have to be a psychologist. And I know teams are amping up like their mental health awareness, and a lot of organizations are fleshing that out in terms of the amount of people that they have to help with everything. But you've got to be the communicator. You've got to be able to manage personalities. And I haven't seen it. I just have not seen it. I haven't seen the response. There's just a lot of things that he said that they're going to do, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I don't see the product, and I don't see the response, to your point. So another little blurb there that I thought was worth kind of talking about.
Yeah, and I think, Nick, when you talk about like, what's the value of a manager, I think that's only brought up really when you have a team that's average to above average. It's like, okay, would we be able to win, with anybody? Would we be 500 or better with just anybody back there? So what's the value of a manager? But when the value of the manager sticks out like a sore thumb when you're an awful team, I mean, it's easy to see like, okay, this guy clearly doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to, motivate a locker room. He doesn't know how to connect with people. It's obvious that he's, out in front of his skis. So again, I think it's really easy to point out when it's really, really bad. And it's like, okay, I think with a different manager, it may only increase. It may be like a 5 to 10 game swing, but that would be something by the end of the year.
But I don't know if I'm even, I guess this goes into like, if the way a new manager, a different manager would communicate or lay the groundwork or deal with day-to-day stuff or handle personalities, would that equate into more wins? I don't really know. But if you don't think at all that Pedro is handling any part of his job the right way, whether or not it matters that he's going to get canned because maybe nobody could take a team like this and do anything with them. If you don't think he's doing any of just the things, then you got to get rid of him, and put in a guy that, this is not the way I wanted things to go in terms of just communication and just bedside manner and everything. I need someone else to be brought in. We don't have the talent yet, but at least the framework, the building blocks can be put in with how they handle their business and how they approach, and they'll be maybe listened to better. I don't know. You look at, across town, we're going to see the Cubs in a little bit here. They had David Ross, where I don't follow the Cubs. It's tough to avoid them. What's happening. What situations are going on with their organization. But they had a guy like David Ross that seemed to be well liked by the fans, and former player, obviously had success in a Cubs uniform, a catcher, and I think they could have just probably kept him. I don't really know if the Cubs were in a place where they were going to make a big jump in terms of player acquisitions in the offseason, like we're really going for it. I thought they would just keep David Ross, but something happened that they didn't like. They didn't like how things happened at the end of the season. They saw an opportunity to get a Craig Counsell, and they jumped all over, and they paid. They absolutely paid.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I'd love to talk to some Cub fans just in that sense of like, how has Counsell been different than Ross?
Yeah.
Is it a terribly different team? Because then that obviously are some variables there that factor in. But what have you seen from Counsell? Like, why was this the guy that you had to go after to change everything?
Yeah, I think they're for Cub fans, it's probably a little bit of that honeymoon phase right now. Not to say that everything's hunky dory up there, but I don't know that they've had enough of a sample size really to determine while this was a great move or not a great move. And I'll tell you what, I go back to what you said before, like who could come into this White Sox team and manage them to success? I'll tell you somebody that I've always admired and loved, and I don't know that he'd ever come back into the game because of where his health's at, is Terry Francona. Now, he's a guy that won with a high budget team and a lot of stars on it. And then, not that he won World Series, but he was able to manage a team in the Cleveland Indians / Guardians for a long time and seemed to have less than the other team on the other side of the field, and was more times than not successful. And I've always loved him. He was in our organization at one point in time, and he would be a guy that I'd say, listen, he's proven that he can win with less. And I think that's a guy that, he walks into a locker room.
This is the motto. Can you win with less?
Yes. Can you win with less? Yes, I can. I've proven that. And that would be a guy that I think could, again, not that he wouldn't be getting this team to challenge for the division, but I think it would be a team that you would say, okay, I am proud of the way that my team plays fundamentally. I'm proud of the way that this team, runs the bases. I'm proud of the way that this team plays defense. And I can't say that about this team. And I don't know.
It would have to take, Pat, like a moment like, the La Russa Jerry moment where Jerry's trying to just go back and rewrite history. I'm so sorry that I let Tito leave our organization. We could have had him. And I don't think they can afford Francona. I don't think Francona would want to come back. I just am assuming a situation. I agree with you. Boy, would I love to have him as a manager of the White Sox. If he's healthy, ready to go. We've seen something similar with Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy stepped aside, left the game, dealing with some health issues. He got the all clear, went with Texas, and look what happened. Obviously, Texas spent money, and they had players and all that other kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that would have to go into play. But if I'm Francona, I'm like, I think I'd want to go to an organization that's like ready to spend, like has all their ducks in a row.
Yeah.
That's got a solid organization, like a good plan. That's what I would think.
Yeah. So what's your plan? You don't really have one. You're the plan.
Who's in with Double-A right now? Sergio Santos.
I couldn't tell you. That sounds right. Let's go with Sergio Santos.
Just put Charlie Montoya in there. I don't care right now. I feel like you'd get a better product with Charlie Montoya.
Could we do AI? Could we create a manager? It's very popular these days. AI is a big deal.
It is. I'm sure you would. You just put a bunch of adjectives and
Oh, I don't know, Nick. That's beyond my pay grade, but I think we just get AI. That's my answer.
there's somebody out there that can probably steer this ship. This ship that needs terrible guidance and so many other things, but it's not Grifol. Prior to Sunday, some good news on Ramos. He ran through more drills and some field work, got the green light to begin his rehab assignment. I think he's going to be going to Charlotte on Monday. So action on Tuesday, could come off the 10-day injured list as soon as Saturday. And here's Grifol. He's ready to go. It took him about 3 to 5 days, kind of as expected. We didn't have the depth to go short and not put him on the IL. So Grifol sounds all kinds of excited. And that's good news for Ramos. I was hoping it wasn't going to be a lengthy stint because I liked how he was playing. He seemed to be getting into a rhythm, and I want to see more of that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Would love to see more of, again, the future.
Yeah. I think that's, I don't know, in terms of position players, like where you're Montgomery, like I don't want to rush that guy. He'll let you know, he'll let you know. I think it'd be helpful to get a taste, but again, there's no reason to rush him. There's no reason to rush Luis Robert Jr. in his rehab stint right now. And again, even with Ramos, if he's not ready, like let him get healthy and be able to come up and produce and see what he can do absolutely healthy. I think you're going to see more younger arms, still getting looks and coming out and seeing what they can do, whether it's Nastrini, Cannon, maybe others, but that's my idea in terms of like the future.
Yeah, and you definitely want guys, if they're going to come back and they're going to probably have some struggles here and there, I'd rather have them struggle 100% healthy than struggle because of a nagging injury. So I'm with you.
Yeah. So you had a rough weekend. The Nats series was kind of promising. I thought Crochet pitched well. I like what I've been seeing from Corey Lee. He seems on like these like mini little tears, like where there's this crazy alternation with Maldonado. We talk about it every single week. That needs to be done. I want to see far more Lee, far more. Maybe Lee's getting more than Maldonado by a little bit right now, percentage points. It needs to be drastically different. I want to see far more Lee. Maybe it's Lee, it's Cuero moving forward in the future. And if that's the case, I want to see more Lee because he's got some power, man. He's got some pop. He'll string multiple hit games, working on some stuff with his defense, but he can show off the arm. I just want to see more of that in a season like this.
There's no reason not to be able to see more. I just don't. It makes zero sense to hold back on guys that you want to get a look at and develop, because you can't develop them by making them sit. So,
yeah. I have got 2 Pedro Grifol quotes of the week here. We've heard a lot from him this episode, but I've got 2 of them here. Thank you so much for folks sticking around with us, on this Sunday night. This was really summer-like weekend. And after a Sox sweep, it's been wonderful to have so many folks in the chats and joining us live, and hopefully pass this along to other Sox fans in your life if they still care, if they still want to consume White Sox content. So this is Pedro Grifol surviving the 3-22 start and able to tell about it. By no means are we even close to out of the woods. It doesn't mean anything, manager Pedro Grifol said. It's just that in the midst of a storm like we had early on, the culture, character, and resiliency of this clubhouse was strong enough to withstand that now and play better baseball. It doesn't mean we won't face that storm again. It means that we have the strength to get through something like that and know the sun will shine after the rain.
Wow, very poetic by Pedro. That's something. I don't know that you can say you've weathered the storm though. I feel like the storm is still here. It hasn't moved on.
It almost like he was going through a CCR, song.
Yes.
We'll stop the rain. I mean, he was kind of creating somewhat the lyrics of the whole situation. Of
I wish he would just do that. He should just do lyrics to songs,
spoken lyrics
movies.
Out of context. If he took some B-side stuff from artists from the 60s or 70s, and his answers were spoken lyrics, I feel like he could get away with it. I really could. And it sounded like he was, it doesn't mean we won't face that storm again. It means we have the strength to go through something like that and know the sun will shine after the rain.
But the sun isn't shining. What is it? What is he talking about? The sun? You won a couple of games against Washington and the sun is shining? Who the hell do you think you are?
He's a half glass full, man.
You're in the storm. You're in the eye of the storm.
This man is obsessed, Pat. This man is absolutely obsessed.
100%.
Rest assured, he's going to get this thing right. So this was that second half of the Merkin piece from WhiteSox.com. Grifol noticing the full house at Yankee Stadium, the 40+ thousand fans coming out singing New York, New York. The Yankees just taking those vibes and being able to manhandle an inept White Sox team. It was really those fans that got them through that lineup. But this is Grifol here. At some point in the not too distant future, Grifol sees the same sort of fan excitement playing out regularly at Guaranteed Rate Field, similar to what he saw at Yankee Stadium this past weekend. He has witnessed it in small bursts over the last 2 years, and he knows the boost it would provide. I do hear them, Grifol said, when our stadium is, I wouldn't necessarily say completely full, when we have 20,000 plus there, it's loud and it's energetic and it brings a lot of energy to our players, and players feed off it. I'm really looking forward to the days where we are winning consistently to see what it really sounds like. Sox have played 24 home games. 5 of those have been 20+ thousand. So
I don't know what to say to that. Again, this goes back to Jerry way back in the day when he said, if you want free agents, you got to come to the ballpark and spend your money, something to that effect.
I see.
So it's got to be on us now to provide the energy so the team can play better. And I think most fans would say it's got to be the other way around. You've got to give us something to get excited about, to show up for.
I think if you let Grifol continue to talk there, he would have been like, well, what do you want from me? I got guys that can't produce, they're not healthy, and there's zero energy at the stadium. I mean, if we could just get some energy in the stadium, if more people could show up to see this horrible team, I mean, then I might be able to, get these guys to respond with all that energy. What do you want?
Yeah, it's always everybody else's fault. So it's our fault yet again. It's your fault, Nick. It's your fault. Although you went to one game this year, right? You only one game?
I've been to two.
Two. Did they win both games, or you 1-1?
What happened with the home opener?
They lost.
so.
Just take a guess. There's a good chance that they lost.
Just take a guess on that one, and you'll probably be right.
I've seen a win. So, I guess we need to go to more games, Nick, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, this is, again, to me, this is him saying what he thinks Jerry wants.
Yeah.
He's speaking through Jerry. Like, well, show up. Come on. Where is everybody? Let's fill the house. Like, let's get all this energy going here. Look at how these players respond. Come on. Let's be there. Let's have their back. That's not how it works, man.
Yeah.
Put a product on the field. Put a winning team on the field. Build a team. Don't worry about building a new stadium. Build a team. Get that one down. Let's figure that one out first.
One step at a time. Do one thing at a time.
People will show up, Pat. They will show up.
We've been there for games when that place is an absolute madhouse. People
absolutely.
love this team. They're passionate about this team. That's one thing that I think it's lost, especially when the attendance is where it is. They think people don't care. It couldn't be further from the truth. And our show, the people that show up every Sunday night and listen to us and comment, is 100% proof of it. So Maybe brighter days are ahead, but it'd be nice to have, again, we've weathered the storm apparently, so we should be fine now.
Yeah, sun's going to be out. Hey, if you're going to Toronto, that's a fun town. I had a blast in Toronto. Some great places to eat, drink, see theater. I mean, the stadium, it was all right. Nothing that I needed to go back and see again. But I had a blast in the city. That was a lot of fun. So
I've heard Toronto is fantastic. I've never been, but
yeah. And then they'll come home. I think they'll come home for Baltimore, and
you might as well just scratch down 3 lots.
I think it's the Luis Robert Jr. bobblehead game, though,
Which you won't be there for.
Well, I might have to find my ways to get the bobblehead. I'll find other ways. Speaking of Luis Robert Jr., I've got the latest media guide right here. This is the 2024. I still get the media guides. I have every media guide, I think, since I was born. I'm missing 2 or 3 years, but I've got the media guides, and these are helpful. These are very helpful. I go to the media guides quite often when researching things. But how about that Luis Robert Jr. kind of comic book design?
I love it. I love it. I wish he was available more often, but.
Well, we're available on Sunday nights, 9:15. We do this live on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. Appreciate you if you just subscribe, like, set your notifications, tell your neighbors, call your sons, call your daughters, alert everybody. The audio is available absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. Appreciate everybody jumping in the comments. A wonderful night of some White Sox chatter. We're on Twitter X at Good Guys TB. We've got a Facebook fan page. Hey, for Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.